Ethan Cole never believed in fate. Luck, coincidence, probability, those made sense. Fate belonged to desperate people, trying to give meaning to random disasters. After 32 years surviving New York City, he learned one thing: nothing good ever came easily. That was why the apartment made him nervous the second he saw it. The listing appeared online at 2:14 a.m., while Ethan sat in an all-night diner in Queens. Studio apartment in Manhattan, fully furnished, utilities included, immediate move-in. The rent was impossible. Not cheap for New York, impossible, actually impossible. A place for that price meant mold, roommates, or a crime scene. Still, desperation makes people ignore warning signs. By sunrise, Ethan stood outside an old brick building on the Lower East Side, staring up at narrow windows. The building looked older than everything around it, like a forgotten tooth. Rain dripped from fire escapes. The sign near the entrance simply read, "Marlowe Apartments." Half the letters were burned out. A buzzer crackled when Ethan pressed it. "Yes?" The voice sounded old, scratchy. "I'm here about the apartment listing." A long pause followed. Then, "4th floor, door 4C. The lock buzzed open. No questions, no paperwork, no interview. That should have been enough to make Ethan leave. Instead, he walked inside. The hallway smelled like dust and old books. Not cigarettes, not garbage, just age. The kind of smell that settled into buildings after decades of people living and dying inside them. The elevator didn't work. A handwritten sign taped to the metal doors read, "Stairs only." Ethan climbed 4 flights under flickering yellow lights. By the 3rd floor, he noticed something strange. The walls were covered in framed photographs. Residents, probably. Old black and white pictures mixed with newer color ones. Families, couples, children, all standing inside the apartment building. Most smiled at the camera. None looked happy. On the 4th floor, apartment 4C stood slightly open. Ethan knocked anyway. No answer. He pushed the door wider and froze. The apartment looked like his memories. Dark green couch, record player beside the window, vintage horror movie posters on the walls. The exact coffee table Ethan had saved. In his online shopping cart 3 months earlier, even the kitchen shelves held his favorite brand of cereal. For a second, he honestly wondered if he had entered the wrong apartment. "Hello?" Silence. Rain tapped softly against the windows. Ethan stepped farther inside. The place was beautiful. Warm lighting, exposed brick walls, hardwood floors without scratches, every object positioned perfectly, like a movie set designed for him. Then he noticed the jacket hanging near the door. Black denim, size medium, exactly his size. His stomach tightened. Okay, maybe the landlord staged the place using common trends. Maybe all 30-something guys decorated the same way now. That explanation worked, right until Ethan saw the photographs. They sat everywhere, on shelves, near the TV, beside the bed, framed memories of people living inside the apartment. A woman with curly blonde hair smiling, a little girl missing her front teeth, a tall, older man holding a birthday cake, and in every single picture, Ethan was there. Not someone who looked similar. Him. Exactly him. Same scar near his eyebrow from a childhood bike accident. Same crooked nose. Same tired eyes. Ethan dropped the photograph in his hand. No. The picture clattered onto the wooden floor. His pulse thundered in his ears. Because the photo wasn't recent, his hair was longer in it. Different style, different clothes. But it was him. Standing beside strangers like family. A floorboard creaked behind him. Ethan spun around violently. An old man stood in the doorway. Thin, pale, wearing suspenders and slippers. The landlord. "You made it," the old man said calmly. Ethan stared at him. "Who the hell are those people?" The old man looked toward the photos. "Oh, them. Why am I in these pictures?" "You already know why." No, I don't. The landlord tilted his head slightly. That's unfortunate. Ethan felt anger replacing fear now. Listen carefully, he snapped. I've never lived here before. The old man studied him quietly. Then he smiled. That's what the last version said too. Silence filled the apartment. Ethan blinked. The what? But the old man simply handed him a brass key. Rent is due on the 1st. Don't open the basement door. And if you hear someone walking around your apartment after 2 a.m., he paused. Pretend you're asleep. Then he walked away. Ethan followed him into the hallway. Hey, the old man kept walking toward the stairs. You can't just say weird stuff like that and leave. The landlord stopped halfway down the staircase. Without turning around, he said, You'll remember eventually. Then he disappeared downstairs. Ethan stood frozen for several seconds. Every instinct screamed at him to leave, but reality hit just as quickly. He had nowhere else to go. His bank account contained $93. His credit cards were maxed out, and despite everything, the apartment felt familiar, comfortably familiar, like returning somewhere after a very long trip. That scared him most. By evening, Ethan convinced himself there had to be a rational explanation. Photoshop, prank. Maybe the landlord found his social media pictures somehow. Maybe this was an elaborate scam targeting desperate renters. Yes, that made sense, except for one problem. The photos weren't copied from social media. Some showed Ethan as a child. Others captured moments he never remembered. One picture showed him sitting at the apartment kitchen table beside the blonde woman while snow fell outside the window. Another showed the little girl asleep on his chest during Christmas morning. And the strangest part, the emotions looked real, not posed, not edited, real memories caught on camera. Ethan spent hours examining every photograph, searching for evidence of manipulation. He found none. At 11:47 p.m., he discovered something worse. Inside the bedroom closet sat a cardboard storage box labeled Ethan. His hands shook opening it. Inside were notebooks, movie ticket stubs, old receipts, birthday cards addressed to him, and one leather journal. Ethan slowly opened the first page. The handwriting was his, not similar. His. Same slanted letters. The entry read, March 8th. I keep seeing him in reflections again. Yesterday, the bathroom mirror blinked half a second late. Claire says I'm exhausted and paranoid, but I know what I saw. The apartment remembers things that never happened yet. Ethan stopped breathing. Claire. The blonde woman from the photographs. He flipped pages faster. April 12th. Lucy asked why the other daddy stands in the hallway at night. April 28th. I think there were people here before us, not tenants. Versions. May 3rd. The basement door opened by itself tonight. May 4th. If you're reading this, then it happened again. God help you. Ethan slammed the journal shut. Every hair on his arm stood upright. The apartment felt different now. Not cozy. Watching. The lights flickered overhead, once, twice, then stopped. Ethan slowly looked toward the hallway, leading to the bathroom. Darkness waited there. He laughed nervously. Okay, nope. He grabbed his jacket immediately. He didn't care if he slept on the subway. He wasn't staying there. But the moment he reached the apartment door, someone knocked. 3 slow taps. Ethan hesitated. Another knock followed. He opened the door slightly. A little girl stood outside, around 7 years old, curly dark hair, yellow raincoat. She looked up at him with sleepy eyes. Daddy? Ethan's blood turned to ice. No, he whispered. The girl frowned. You forgot again. A woman's voice called from downstairs. Lucy. The little girl looked over her shoulder, then back at Ethan. You should lock the bathroom tonight, she whispered quietly. Footsteps approached up the stairs. Ethan blinked, and the girl was gone. A middle-aged woman appeared carrying grocery bags. She looked confused seeing him. Sorry, she said. "Did my daughter bother you?" Ethan stared past her, into the empty hallway. The little girl. "My daughter's at her father's this week." The woman forced an awkward smile before continuing upstairs. Ethan slowly closed the apartment door. His hands trembled uncontrollably now. That night, he pushed a chair beneath the doorknob. At 1:13 a.m., he finally fell asleep on the couch. At exactly 2:04 a.m., footsteps woke him. Soft, bare feet crossing hardwood floors. Ethan's eyes opened slowly. Darkness covered the apartment except for moonlight spilling through the windows. The footsteps continued, from the bedroom, moving toward the hallway. He remembered the landlord's warning instantly. "Pretend you're asleep." Ethan kept his eyes barely closed. The footsteps stopped near the couch. Something stood beside him, breathing, slow, wet. Ethan fought every instinct to look. The room became freezing cold. A smell drifted through the air, rot, like wet earth and old graves. Then a voice whispered beside his ear, "You came back wrong." Ethan squeezed his eyes shut tighter. The thing moved away. Footsteps crossed toward the bathroom. A door creaked open. Then silence. Minutes passed, maybe hours. Eventually, Ethan forced himself to look. The apartment was empty, but the bathroom light was on. He grabbed a kitchen knife before walking slowly toward it. Every floorboard creak sounded deafening. The bathroom door stood half open. Inside, the mirror was fogged over. Words had been written across the condensation. "You are not the first." Ethan stumbled backward. His knife clattered into the sink. Then the mirror changed, not physically, the reflection, because mirror Ethan wasn't moving. The real Ethan backed away, breathing hard, but his reflection stayed standing perfectly still, smiling, and behind reflection Ethan stood a family, Claire, Lucy, and several shadowy figures. Ethan didn't recognize. The reflection spoke first. "You shouldn't have come back." The bathroom light exploded. Glass shattered everywhere. Ethan screamed and fell backward into the hallway. When he looked again, the mirror was normal. Only his terrified reflection stared back.